Well, it's something that could have been prevented if Paul Martin and the Liberals weren't so arrogant. Keep in mind that NDP leader Dr. Jack Layton had gone to them first to get support to prevent the privatization of Medicare, or the spread of the privatization, because as you're probably aware, it started already. And Mr. Martin more or less told him to go to hell. Okay, so with that, he decided to withdraw NDP support. Then Dr. Layton went back and suggested that they wait until after Christmas to call an election, because it's up to the Prime Minister to determine the date, the actual date of voting. And again, they rejected that offer. So this is something that not everybody, of course, wanted, but we could not avoid it. There weren't enough NDP MPs in the Parliament to make a difference in this case. So we are stuck with it, and on a personal level, I'm still excited about this election, and the cold weather doesn't really bother me because I dress for it, and we'll just see how it turns out. It might be to our benefit, who knows, to have it in the winter. Traditionally, the NDP, and we have a track record to show this, to prove this, we are the party that always puts people first. We haven't rolled out our entire platform yet. It's been coming out little by little. But let's just go back to the record-making NDP federal budget. And from that, you can get an idea of the things that we are offering to Canadians that would benefit people like you and me, not just the rich corporations. In June, when the Liberals were offering $4.6 billion to the corporations, Dr. Jack Layton, NDP leader, said, if you want our support with the budget vote, then instead of giving the $4.6 billion to corporations, invest it instead in people. We took those $4.6 billion and invested it in tuition fees, lowering tuition fees. And of course, you know, York University, Humber College, Seneca, all of these colleges are in York West, so there will be direct benefit for students who go to those institutions. We put money in there to protect pensions. Some people might be aware that when companies go bankrupt, the workers usually lose their pensions and outstanding wages. We put money in there to protect that. We put money to help clean up the environment, for training, especially for workers who are laid off, who lose their jobs, so that they might get employment in other areas if they get new training. We put money in there for more affordable housing, because that's something that we desperately need, more affordable housing. So look at those things. It's all to benefit people, again, like you and me. Well, only time will tell. They say January 23rd is supposed to be the coldest day in the year. And I want to urge people to vote early. Vote in the advanced polls. Vote now if you've already made up your mind to vote NDP. Go now to the returning officer with your ID and vote. You don't have to wait until January or until the advanced polls, because nobody knows what will happen on January 23rd. If we have a huge snowstorm, that's going to affect voter turnout. So only time will tell. About 30-something% of the people vote. Maybe maximum early 40s, you know, the 40-something, but last year it was about 38 or 39% who voted. So we have a huge percentage of people who do not vote. And I want to urge those people, the traditional non-voters, please come out and vote this time. And of course, vote for me and the NDP. Well, for one thing, you could elect another NDP MP in York West if more people came out and voted, because amongst the non-voters, there is a high proportion of more recent immigrants. And if they look at the past Liberal record, the Liberals were in power with a majority government for 12 years. They could have done anything that they wanted in those 12 years, and they ignored immigrant issues, especially issues around getting our qualifications and skills recognized in this country. Now, another another big issue with the immigrants, it's family reunification. That's something that the NDP, we've been pushing for it for years. Unfortunately, there aren't enough of us in Parliament to really make a difference. We want to see families united. And if there is a sibling left back in the home country, regardless of their marital status, we think they should be allowed to come and join their families here. I have friends who live near to Jane and Finch. Their mother passed away a couple months ago, and the sister, the last remaining sister in Guyana, could not come to the funeral. That really broke my heart, because her visa, it was turned down. We tried, we begged, we pleaded everywhere we could, and nothing happened. It was really sad that she couldn't come to be with the rest of the family to mourn the passing of their mother. Another thing that we want to, another thing that we would like to see is the abolishment of the head tax. $1,500, that's a lot to ask people from some countries to pay in order to get an immigrant visa, to get landed status for Canada. In countries like Haiti, that might be more than an entire year's wages, right? So it's very hard on people who would like to immigrate here. I haven't looked at those figures. It's something I've been meaning to do. And I know it's probably on the lower side, because in general in the country, the youth don't turn out, but I would love to see more youth coming out and voting, and vote for a party that supports youth, because we support people. We want to do more for families as well, and if we can help the parents, then we'll help the youth as well. Well, it would mean, again, putting more NDP MPs in Parliament, because we've seen from past records that when in areas where the youth vote, they tend to favor the NDP. They identify more with the NDP, and especially those who are in university or college, because they see this is the only party that cares about lowering tuition fees and about changing the format for repayment of loans. As a matter of fact, we want to have more grants in there so that there's nothing to repay. Right now, it is cheaper to buy new furniture or to buy a car than it is to go to school, when you consider the financing aspect of it, okay? So those are the things that matter to youth. We also want to put more programs, training programs in place. For example, a trade school, especially in an area like York West. That's another thing that we are focusing on. So if the youth came out and voted for us, we would have a much better Canada. And certainly they'll have the best member of Parliament in Sandra Anthony in York West. I want to ask the youth and the people in general in York West to vote for me, Sandra Anthony, to be your next Member of Parliament. I understand your issues because I'm also an immigrant. I've been through the educational system here, so I know what it's like to pay those high fees, and then you have to repay the student loan. I've walked the road that you have walked. Please do not be fooled by empty Liberal promises. Dr. Jack Layton and the NDP members of Parliament did far more for Canadians, for people like you and for me, in 12 months than the Liberals have done in 12 years. The Liberals had 12 years of a majority government to do things for you and me, and instead, crime, violence, gun violence has increased in York West. Housing, the quality of housing, has gone all the way down, and rents are escalating. So parents have to work longer and harder in order to make ends meet. When parents are not around to supervise their children and there are no programs to engage the children, of course they are left idly by and they become targets for gang recruiters. I blame Paul Layton for a lot of the problems in York West. In 1993, when the Liberals first took office, the first thing he did was to cut the affordable housing program. And then he cut transfer payments to the provinces. And he changed the format of those payments to make it a block transfer instead of earmarking money for specific programs like education, housing, health, etc. The block transfer allowed the Premier to do whatever he liked with the money from Ottawa. And the Premier turned around and made lots of cuts that have affected people, especially vulnerable people in areas like York West, and that contributed to the poor state of the social and economic conditions in the riding. So please consider it's time for a change, a positive change. The more NDP MPs you put in Parliament, the more results we'll get for you. A vote for the NDP will elect an NDP MP. Thank you very much and have a happy and holy Christmas, a wonderful holiday, and all the best in the new year. Happy Hanukkah as well.